In this video, we will discuss straight pay and overtime pay. Straight pay is the amount of money that you earn for a pay period at a regular rate. When you work a job that has an hourly rate, in other words, you're paid per hour, to determine the straight time pay, we simply multiply the hourly rate times the hour worked. So the straight time pay is the gross pay for an hourly job. So in this example, Shauna Nugent is a male clerk at an advertising firm. She earns $12 per hour. This week, she worked 39 and a half hours. What is her straight time pay for the week? We multiply the $12 per hour times 39 and a half hours. Her straight time pay is $474. Now, we can model this with a Excel spreadsheet, which will be one of the overall goals in this class. So in that same scenario, we have Shauna, who earns $12 an hour and works 39 and a half hours. Using the Excel spreadsheet, we're going to use this to calculate. So to get her straight pay, I'm going to start by pressing the equals. And that way, the spreadsheet knows that I needed to do a calculation. I need to do her regularly hourly wages. I'm just going to select that cell, select cell B2 times C2, which is the hours worked. And the benefit of this is even if we change her hourly wages, it automatically changes the straight time. The straight pay. So for Ralph earns $9.75 an hour, works for 28 hours. His straight pay, cell B3, which is $9.75, times cell C3, which is 28 hours. He earns $273. Now, if we know the hourly wage and we know the straight pay, we could determine the number of hours worked. So how we could determine this is we divide. If we take the straight pay, cell D4, and divide that by the regular hourly wage, we could see that Bobby worked approximately 16.25 hours. And the same thing for the wage. We start with equals. Anytime we need to do calculation, we start with equals. If the pay is $640.20, we'll divide that by the number of hours worked. Lisa earns $21.34 per pay. So this is straight pay. Straight pay is based on, as we said, straight pay is the total amount of money you earn for a pay period at the regular hourly rate. Now, in addition to straight pay, there is what's called overtime pay. Overtime pay is when you work more than the regular number of hours, which is generally 40 hours a week. So once you work over 40 hours a week, you get overtime pay. And the overtime rate varies from place to place and situation to situation. Overtime rate can be 1.5 times your hourly rate or double your hourly rate. So when a person gets overtime pay, in order to get overtime, you must first work 40 hours. In order to get overtime, you must first work 40 hours. And then you get the overtime rate. So in the example, Alan Moore is paid $8.20 an hour for a regular 40-hour week as a restaurant host. His overtime rate is 1.5 times his hourly rate. This week, he has worked 40 hours plus 10 hours of overtime. What is his total pay? So step one, we're going to figure out what is the straight time pay. So that's the 820 times 40. So for the 40 hours, Allen earned $328. Now, for his overtime pay, he gets he gets 1.5 times his hourly rate for 10 hours. So that's 1.5 times 820. That gives him his overtime rate, and we multiply that by 10 hours. So that's $12 and I'm sorry, $123 in overtime pay. So to get the total pay, we'll add the straight time pay and the overtime pay. So that is how we're going to determine overtime pay. And we could determine this with a spreadsheet as well. So on the same note, I'm going to go over to the next tab. So to get the straight pay, the straight pay is based on a 40-hour work week. So if we take the hourly pay and we can multiply that by 40. Now, with Google Sheets, it will sometimes suggest a formula, and depending on the scenario, if that's good or not. Right now, I'm not going to use the suggestion. Well, A3 times 40. So it knows to multiply each of these cells by 40. And that's how we could get the straight pay. So the straight pay is just the hourly rate times 40. Now to get overtime pay, we're going to take the overtime rate times the hourly rate times the number of hours. So I'm going to say that again. Overtime pay is equal to the overtime rate, time and a half, times the hourly rate, which is $11.50, times 8 hours, $138 in overtime. So we'll take the overtime rate times the hourly pay times the overtime hours. So when we use the Excel spreadsheet, the Google Sheets, it actually will do the calculating for us. We just have to know what to tell it what to calculate. Overtime rate times hourly pay times overtime hours. Overtime rate times hourly pay times overtime hours. And to get the total pay, overtime pay plus straight pay. So we have the total pay for everyone. So this is overtime pay and straight pay, which indicates how much gross income a person makes on a check. And gross income is the money that you make before taxes, before deductions.